The Life You Can Save is het recentste boek van Peter Singer. Een handleiding voor het wegwerken van armoede.
When I talk about global poverty with my students, I try to get them to see that the situation that they're in is one in which we have obligations to those living in extreme poverty. And to do that, I begin by asking them to imagine that they're walking across a park and they pass an ornamental pond. Imagine that you're walking past a pond in a park. Let's say that you know this park well. You've walked past it many times before. But today, as you walk past, you see that there's a small child who's fallen into it. If you don't save the child, it's very likely that the child will drown. But then the thought occurs to you that just this morning you put on your favorite pair of shoes. They're quite expensive shoes that you bought just recently for a lot of money. So you ask yourself, do I really have a responsibility to save this child? I don't know the child. Couldn't I just walk on and then not have to buy myself a new pair of shoes? So I say to my students, what would you think of a person who did that? And of course they all say, that would be terrible. That would be wrong. That would be an awful thing to do. Some people say you would have to be some kind of monster to place your shoes above the life of a child. So then I say, good, I'm glad you think that, and I agree with that entirely. But have you considered that for the cost of a pair of expensive shoes, you could save a child right now? You could write out a check or go online with your credit card and make a donation to Oxfam or one of these agencies. I think in Belgium you have Oxfam Belgium, right? And they can use it to relieve poverty, to provide clean drinking water, which can save lives, and provide basic health care, which also saves lives. And probably it will only cost a few hundred euros to save a child's life, which is something that even students will spend on things that they don't really need. So if you think that it's wrong to ignore the child in the pond, isn't it also wrong to ignore the much larger number of children who are in poverty all over the world, and a number of whom are dying every day? In fact, several thousand are dying every day from avoidable poverty-related causes, which we could prevent. And that's what I think is the key factor here, that we can prevent, maybe not all, but we can prevent a lot of these deaths, and we can do so at a relatively small cost to ourselves. We don't have to sacrifice anything comparable in importance to a child's life.
So you think that our viewers, basically everyone living a comfortable life in the West, should do this? Should we donate to be able to say that we live an ethical life? Do we actually fall short of living ethically if we don't?
I think that living ethically involves not merely, not doing the bad things, cheating, stealing, lying, killing, and so on. But it does involve some positive obligations to help, because we are living in a world where there are many people who need our help, and where our help can save lives. So, yes, I think that if you're just sitting there comfortably, enjoying your own life, doing nothing for those who are far worse off than you, you're not living an ethical life. That's right. Now, of course, the question can be raised, how much should we be doing? And I think it's not realistic to ask for too much, but if you think about the fact that there are about 1 billion people in the world who are quite affluent, as well as 1 billion people who are in extreme poverty, we don't have to do such a lot. In my book, The Life You Can Save, I calculated how much could be raised if most people gave just 1% of their income, and the richest 10% of people gave more, a higher percentage depending on how rich they are. And I worked that out in the book, and it's actually a remarkably large sum. It would produce $1.5 trillion in aid for the poor, compared to at present maybe a couple of hundred billion. So it would multiply aid 6 or 7 times, and that could make a huge difference.